Hello, and welcome to this session on assessing your AI readiness. My name is Jaime Hunt, and I am the founder and president of Solve Higher Ed, a marketing consulting firm that serves higher education. And one of the things I do in my role is travel around the country teaching people about the best ways to leverage AI. And in that process, I have learned a lot about how to assess whether your team or your institution is ready for the tools and technologies that are now available. So when we think about this session, the primary question is, how ready is your institution to leverage AI effectively? And there's an important keyword in there, and that is effectively. There are a lot of people using AI in a lot of different ways. There are people using it in their personal lives, there's people using it for little productivity gains. But what we're really talking about today is creating a scenario where you're truly leveraging AI and maximizing the use of it to be able to drive your institution forward in ways that differentiate you in the marketplace. And I think those institutions that figure this out are going to be the ones that truly thrive in the next couple of years. And I think those that absolutely have their heads in the sand around AI are going to be in real trouble within the next maybe 2 to 3 years, where they're not able to provide the same level of student support, they're not able to do the same level of marketing automation and so on that allows them to be successful. Right now, AI is transforming higher education, and it is doing that from marketing and student engagement to research and operations. But the readiness for an institutional wide approach to AI readiness is essential. If you're jumping in without assessing what your current capabilities are, you're going to have an inefficient application of AI, and you're going to find a lot of resistance within your organization. But I also want to really stress that I use the word is here. So AI is transforming higher education. And I want to have you think about a couple of things before we really move on into how to make the assessment. So imagine a prospective student who's browsing your website late at night, unsure about the next steps to take in the admissions process. And an AI powered chatbot pops up and is ready to answer questions instantly. It even follows up with an email the next morning. And now compare that to an institution where the student waits days for a response, or even worse, never gets one. Which experience do you think would lead to better enrollment outcomes? I know we're talking about chatbots, and they're not a futuristic concept at all, but I talk to a lot of schools that still don't even have this level of AI applied to their organizations. Or if they do, they have it only applied to undergraduate enrollment. So how can we take the benefits of this immediacy that comes with an AI-powered chatbot or an AI-powered agent and apply that across your organization? That truly takes a systems level thinking that is beyond just applying something like a Band-Aid. I also want to give an example of a university struggling with some budget constraints, and you're not sure how to optimize financial aid distribution. Using AI, you can analyze historical data and predict which students are most likely to enroll if you give a small additional grant. So this helps you maximize your yield and prevent summer melt. But if you picture another university that's still making financial decisions based on guesswork, which institution do you think will see better enrollment numbers? AI isn't just about technology, it's about smarter decision making. Is your institution ready to leverage it? I want to give one more example before we move on to the next slide, and that is around student success. We know that student success is critically important for our institutions. Our reputations are not built on our admissions practices. Unless you're truly an Ivy League school that's letting in only 4% of students or something like that, the admission rate isn't the biggest priority. What's really important is that persistence, retention, and graduation rates. Those are absolutely essential. It shows prospective students and your current students and their families that if they come to the school, they're going to get the outcome that you have promised in your marketing materials. So picture a first generation college student struggling with coursework, but not knowing where to turn. late one evening, they get a personalized AI-driven alert that suggests tutoring services based on their grades and their engagement data. And with just one click, they're able to schedule a session that helps them to stay on track. Now imagine a different scenario, a more common scenario, perhaps the scenario at most schools. There's no proactive outreach happening, and the student quietly drops out unnoticed. And in that situation, not only does the institution lose tuition dollars, which is certainly the business case for looking at why we need to care about student retention and success, but also that student feels like they have let themselves, their families, and their community down. And often they're leaving with debt and nothing to show for it. AI is out there transforming student support. But again, is your institution equipped to handle it effectively? So I'm going to share with you an AI maturity model. So what do I mean by that? An AI maturity model is really a framework that helps your institution assess your current capabilities, identify any gaps, and develop a roadmap for AI integration. I have been speaking around the country for the past couple of years around marketing maturity models. And it's when I talk about those, I talk about them much in the same way that I want you to think about an AI maturity model. So it's really like a GPS for AI adoption. You need to know what your starting point is before you can map out your destination. So as you're thinking about, I know where I want to be on my journey, you need to understand where you're starting from in order to get there. And so an AI maturity model really helps you to do that. So I want to walk through the 5 stages of AI maturity. And as I describe them, think about which stage best describes your institution. But I am also going to have later in this presentation a more efficient way of making that assessment. So just start thinking right now where you fit, and then we're going to have an assessment to help you determine how you get there. So the first stage is really the nascent stage. That's the exploratory stage. AI is being talked about on campus, but there's no real formal strategy. Maybe a few people are experimenting with some different tools, but there's no leadership buy-in, there's no big picture institutional support for it, and you're finding that there's not a strong strategy around how it's leveraged. This is a very common place to be. When I talk to schools that want to bring me in to do some AI training, a lot of schools fall into this category. And I do want to say, if you're listening to this and you're like, I'm not a VP, I'm not a president, I can't make the kind of institutional wide change that's necessary to make this happen, I want you to banish that thought from your head, because what I'm describing here, well, it could be applied to institutional readiness. If you lead a department or a division, or you have even a small team, thinking about these stages for your team is also very effective. So again, we have this exploratory stage. Maybe 1 or 2 people are using it. Maybe you're using, a scattershot range of tools, and there's no real institutional focus on AI. In the next stage, which I've labeled developing, that's where you're starting to see some AI tools being used on a wider scale. And maybe you have something like a chatbot for admissions, or you're using predictive analytics for student retention, but these efforts are really siloed and there's no real clear direction for how you're going to scale them or make them more sustainable. In the next category, we're talking about scaling. So this is when AI starts being integrated across departments. Maybe marketing is using it for automation, admissions is using it for personalization, student services is using for support, and leadership is engaged. That's a critical distinction. I don't think you can get to this stage without having your senior leadership engaged in leading these conversations and engaged in directing and setting a vision for the institution. When I talk to leadership groups about how to implement AI or build a culture of AI exploration, I talk about how important it is for leaders to be as involved as possible in this and to have this not be something that's only grassroots. It really needs to be grassroots and top down. So if you're a leader, be thinking about this as what can I do to build this buy-in and build this vision? And if you're somebody more at the grassroots level, start thinking about what you can do to influence that process. So again, you don't have to be a leader listening to this to know how you can make change for your organization. In the next category, we're talking about optimize. This is when you have a really data-driven AI culture. And AI is not just an experiment. It's part of strategic decision making. And that is something when I talk about having AI centric thinking, that's where you stop thinking about how can we take AI and change our current processes. Instead, you're starting to think, what is the current challenge that I have and how can AI solve it? I understand that that's very nuanced. So I'm going to try to think about another way to explain that. So before the optimized category, you're maybe saying this process that we have on campus could potentially be more efficient or effective if we implemented an AI tool to help us with it. That is perfectly fine. But to really have a mature organization, a better way to be thinking about it is we have this challenge in our program, in our department, at our university. And we're going to start by thinking about how AI can solve that challenge. Not just loop it into an existing process, but really build something brand new using an AI tool. And another thing I want to stress at this level is that there are ethical policies in place and AI insights are guiding institutional priorities. So think about, why am I stressing ethical policies? For a couple of reasons. Some of them are self-explanatory, right? We want to be using AI in an ethical way, of course, absolutely. We do not want to be doing deep fakes. We do not want to be mining people's data and using it for nefarious purposes. But beyond that, there is going to be people on your campus who are very and vehemently opposed to the use of AI, both among your faculty and staff and among your students. If you do not have policies in place to address the ethics around how you use AI, those people are going to be forever resistant. We need to be very clear about how we're using these tools in an ethical way. And having those policies in place and having AI governance is going to be really important to get those people bought in. And without buy-in, you cannot truly reach what I think is the final and most mature stage for AI readiness. And that is transformational. That is where AI is truly a differentiator. That is where you are going to be able to make massive leaps in yield, in anti-melt, in persistence, retention, graduation rates, student outcomes, grades, budget management across the board. The AI has truly become a competitive advantage that's allowing you to truly personalize learning, optimize your budgets, and improve retention. And your institution, when you achieve this level, will be truly seen as an AI leader. So I'm curious, where do you think your institution falls? Before we go to the slide where I'm going to show you how to make that assessment, where do you think your institution falls? All right. So you're thinking this through, and now we're going to hop into this little chart that will help you make the assessment. So I'm going to ask you 5 questions, and I want you to rate your institution on a scale of 1 to 5 for each. Okay? Is there a clear vision for AI tied to institutional goals? 1, there's absolutely no vision. 5, we have full, complete buy-in we have a full, complete vision that's clearly articulated and everybody understands it. Somewhere in between might be, we have a vision, but it's not well understood, or we're working toward a vision, but 1 is no vision, 5 is it's a vision that's been set, articulated, and everybody understands it. So where do you fall in between? All right, so for the next category, leadership buy-in, okay? Are decision makers engaged? Why is this important? Before we kind of dig into this, why is this important? This is important because leaders have to be engaged in something that's going to have this massive of an impact on operations. Without leadership engagement, we're not going to be able to move the needle in the ways that we need to. So ask yourself, are decision makers engaged? A one would be, we never even hear from leadership about AI. No idea. They appear to not care. Or worse, I guess this would maybe be a zero. They're actively resistant or opposed to using AI. Okay. And five is yes, they are fully engaged. They are bringing in consultants. They're bringing in tools. They're have task force formed. They're fully engaged in making your campus AI ready. And I think as a really good example of somebody that is, I would say, probably at that five level would be Janet Spriggs at Forsyth Tech. And I believe they're speaking at this conference. She's all in and is her campus. I can't imagine there's anyone on her campus that doesn't know that they are all in on making investments and moving forward with AI. So that's a five. A one is you don't even hear from them about AI. All right. In the next category, we're looking at the technology infrastructure. Does your institutions have the right tools and data accessibility to leverage AI? Are those tools in place? So think about that. One, absolutely not. We can't even get procurement to allow us to purchase a pro version of ChatGPT. We're not even allowed to open up Midjourney on our computers. There's no infrastructure ready. And five is we are fully ready to optimize and use AI. Our tech stacks are ready for it. Our IT department is harnessing things. Maybe they're building out their own LLMs to support the institution. That is a five. So think about that. And I do want to pause and say that there is a worksheet that you're going to be able to get after this session to help you with this. So you don't necessarily have to just take screenshots of this and try to fill it out. There will be a handout that helps. In the next category, we're looking at skills and culture. Do teams have AI literacy or is there resistance to change? Okay, so AI literate campus would be most people. We're never going to be able to say every person on campus, but most people on campus fully understand the power of large language models, the power of artificial intelligence. They understand what the tools are good for, how they're useful, what kind of products are out there. On the one side, people are just absolutely not using it. They have no interest in using it. They don't want to use it. If they are using it, they're using it just for things like recipes or meal planning, or maybe just like the very basics of generating content with a tool like ChatGPT or Claude. They're not really AI literate. And AI literacy is, again, absolutely critical to be able to truly leverage these tools across your institution. And then in the last category is, are there policies in place for responsible AI use? Okay, so one would be, nope, we haven't even talked about it. Five would be, yep, we've fully talked through these policies, engaged the campus, they've gone to our board, they've been approved, they're posted, and everybody understands them. If you're somewhere on that journey between, nope, we haven't even talked about it, and we have it fully vetted and ready to go, and our board is approved and everybody understands it, there's a lot in there, a lot of nuance in there. But maybe three is the policy is written but it hasn't gone to the board yet, or something like that. So think about where you fall on that spectrum between nothing at all and a fully developed, approved, and understood policy. So going into our next slide, I want to talk about what are the next steps. Now that you know your starting point, let's talk about our next steps. And I'm realizing as I say this that I probably should have told you how to score this, and I apologize. We're going to go back to that first. So for scoring this, you're going to look at this chart and you're going to say, if my total score is between 1 and 6, I'm really in that nascent beginner introductory phase, right? That's where we fall. I'm going to give you some tips for how to start moving things forward, but that's where you fall. If you're between maybe 7 and 12, you're moving into developing, right? You're advancing, you're getting there. You've made some progress, but there's still some ways to go. Between 13 and 20, you're starting to scale. You're starting to see movement. You're starting to see optimization, things are progressing. And then in about 21 to 23, you're really optimized. You're starting to cook all of the things I said earlier about what happens when you fit into the optimize. You have ethical policies in place. It's part of the strategic decision making. There's a lot going. And then truly in order for me to really say that you're at that transformational stage, I think you need to be at a 24 or 25. You have to have AI literacy across your campus. You have to have leadership buy-in. You have to have a vision that's tied to the institutional goals. You have to have the right technology stack. You have to have the policies for ethics and for governance. I mean, you truly need to have all of that to fall into that last category. So now that we've made the assessment of where we fall, I want to walk you through what you can do to start advancing along that roadmap. If you're in that real beginner stage, this is where you're really going to focus on awareness and education. You're going to start doing AI literacy training for leadership and staff. You're really going to focus on making sure leadership is having conversations around AI. Maybe you're hosting AI literacy workshops on your campus. You might be bringing in some specialists in specific areas for marketing or admissions or for budget who can help full teams start to understand how to utilize the tools. And I want to really stress that I think if you're at this stage and leadership is starting these conversations, leadership also needs to be taking some of these literacy workshops and participating in those, because it is really difficult to set a vision and lead a change if you're not using the tool at all yourself. So don't let yourself off the hook if you're a leader and say, I'm just going to let, the person with X or Y job title figure this out. Be engaged in that. Make sure you understand the possibilities as well. If you're in that developing stage, this is where a lot of people I think are going to fall. And this is where you want to start piloting tools in key areas like marketing automation, student support, really start tackling some projects that go beyond just individual productivity or content creation, things like that. Really start thinking about how you can leverage tools in bigger ways, but you're starting perhaps with smaller projects. In the next phase, which is scaling, you're going to be aligning those initiatives with institutional strategic goals. So this is where you're starting to think about, hey, we might need an AI governance team that can help guide where we're going. Maybe we need to tie our usage of AI back to strategic plan goals and make sure there's a connection there. If you're just using it and you have maybe a chatbot here, a student support tool there, AI or marketing automation here, start to look at how you can connect those tools to your strategic plan. In the optimized stage, this is where you're starting to think about developing those cross-functional AI teams where it's people from across your university coming together to talk about how to leverage tools in a broader and more scalable way. So you were scaling before. In optimized, you have scaled, right? You're starting to really scale the use of it, and you're ensuring that the AI is ethical and inclusive. And another thing to do at this stage is to really invest in faculty and staff training. Make sure everybody knows and understands how to use these tools. And then if you're in the transformational stage, congratulations, you have really achieved what you need to achieve in the AI space. And what you do now is really using AI to drive new innovations, whether that's personalized learning, budget optimization, predictive student support. You are really taking AI and using it for continuous innovation and differentiation. You're not just saying what we've accomplished is enough, you're continuing to do more and more. All right, I want to give you a couple of implementation strategies at this point that I think are some relatively low-hanging fruit that anybody at any stage could tackle. So that would be, if you have not yet, forming an AI leadership task force. If you aren't at the university-wide level, think about even within your department or unit, pulling together a leadership task force that can really start to be thinking about how you can more strategically use AI. There's intentionality that's needed. There's strategy that's needed. And the next thing I want to recommend is doing small scalable pilot projects. Start thinking through what is something you could pilot or try within your organization or your department to help support that continued growth and usage of AI? And then finally, start thinking about how you can collaborate with vendors and consultants around AI. I don't think any institution can really have the expertise on their campus, on every college campus, to be able to fully do this all themselves without leveraging some sort of external resources. And whether that is buying some out of the box products so that you're not custom developing your own AI tools, I'm a big believer in that. I know it can be very tempting to be like, we'll just build it ourselves. But then the person that builds it moves on, retires, wins the lottery, disappears, whatever, and you have a lot of issues with maintaining that product. So I'm a big believer in buying stuff off the shelf or finding tools that are available off the shelf. And I also think it can be really helpful to bring in consultants and vendors to help do that training and demystify AI. So think about how you can do that. So as the key takeaways for this session, as we're getting ready to wrap up, AI maturity isn't about having the latest tools. It's about having the strategy, culture, and governance that allows you to use whatever tool is on the horizon. And that assessing your AI readiness helps you prevent wasted resources and misalignment and helps you connect those goals or those efforts towards your strategic goals. And finally, even small steps now can lead to transformational outcomes. So don't be sitting in the entry level category thinking you're never going to make it to transformational. You can't get anywhere without taking that first step. So start thinking about how you can take that first step, which takes me to my last slide, which is this is the time to take action. This is the time to take action. You do not want to fall farther behind than you are today. So take some real steps to start moving your organization forward. Identify your AI maturity stage. That is a great first step. And like I said, that handout hopefully will help you to do that. Start leadership discussions about AI strategy, whether that's at the institution-wide level, within your college, within your department. Start having conversations about how we're going to strategically leverage. And don't let people get off the hook being like, oh, that's a problem for another day. That the other day that was a problem for was yesterday. We need to be thinking about tomorrow and tomorrow's tomorrow and tomorrow's tomorrow, right? We need to be thinking about how we're going to leverage these tools before we fall further behind other institutions. This will be a massive differentiator for the schools that get it right. You can also start piloting those small AI projects, but make sure they're ones that can have measurable outcomes. If there isn't massive leadership buy-in or enthusiasm for the use of AI, piloting small projects that have something that you can point to as an ROI can help you to make the case for why the institution needs to be thinking about this at a larger level. And then finally, start thinking about developing those AI governance policies. Even again, within your own department, defining out how and in what ways you will use AI and how you will start to build that matured or that comfort level with AI. That is a really important step that can feed to that larger institution-wide governance. So again, institution-wide level, be thinking about how you can start developing those governance policies at the department level. Think about how you can develop those for within your department, even if it's as simple as this is how we will and will not use AI. Those are really important first steps. And I really encourage you to be really thoughtful and to have people within the organization that are both for and resistant to the use of AI to help guide those decisions in ways that will help you create greater buy-in among those resistant people. This is just, I can't stress enough how important this step is. So thank you so much for attending this session. I'm happy to talk with you about whatever questions that you might have. You can find me at jamie@solvehighered.com or solvehighered.com is my website. And I'm also on LinkedIn at Jaime Hunt, JaimeHunt. And I'm happy to chat with you there as well and to answer any questions that you might have. Again, thank you so much. I'm really eager to see where your AI journey takes you. And I'm super excited to hear from those institutions that are in that transformational category and really, really cooking with fire. Thank you.